Right, I'm starting to put back together this Zundapp 265 engine, and thank God I've all the dirty work done, cleaning parts, etc. So now I'm just setting up and seeing have I got most of the bits here. So I've got two bolts for here. For here, they go on there. The rivet is unimportant. The bearing tube. Bearing tube is already there on the casing. I've got this support piece here. It won't be going on just now, but I have it anyway. This tooted washer and the M6x15. The fitting sleeve is there, and the other two are there and there. Right, so this M6x40 threaded bolt, I don't need those at the moment, that'll be later. So I've got the 16005 bearing, a new one, and I've got the circlip there, M10x18. It won't be going on now, that's the oil sump. 15/24/7 oil seal, which goes on there. 6202 bearing. It's 6202 Z3. One side is closed and the other side is opened, so that goes in there. I'll have to check whether the closed side is this way. I think it is. And the 16005 goes in there, the other side. So what I'll have to do now is I'll have to heat up that to get that bearing in, and I'll put in the other bearing, and I'll put in the oil seal and the circlip. So these I don't want them a while. This I don't want a while. These other things come later. Right, that's it down in place there now. I must just put on the circlip to hold it in place. Now that's the circlip in place there. Just make sure that it's sitting correctly. Yep. Now I'll put the bearing on the other side. I must just check to see whether this is inside or outside. Right, I must turn it that way. Right, that's the bearing down there now as well, so there are the two bearings installed. I must install the oil seal now at the other side. Here. Now that's it down in place. I've just attached the two head bolts there. So that's that piece for the moment. Now this is the pedal shaft here, and it has a washer on it, and it has a spacer, and there is another little spacer, no sorry, not a spacer, another washer there. I don't know that it should be there, but I don't think it actually needs to be there, but in any event I leave it. And in this one there's a circlip. In the other ones that I have, you have the spacer, and there's another spacer here, so they must have changed it at some stage. So there's two different types. So anyone, turn the casing upside down and install spindle in here with the washer, spacer and the shaft itself, and we've got to put the other casing on and check it for play. I'll just get that down there now first. Right, the two halves are together and I want to see that this thing has no play in it, but it has. Right, so what we've got to do is put in spacers. I have them here, I've already done it, so I know that these two will sort it out. So I'm taking off the casing again and I'm going to put in this washer here and this other one. I know that the two of them now will resolve it. Put the casing back on, like so. Now I must turn it over and put two screws. Now I'm actually only putting one screw in it. The one screw should hold it in place. Like so. I can now turn it sideways and check it for play. And there's no play. And it turns. It's a little bit tight, but I'll be putting a gasket on it, so putting the gasket on it will open it up ever so slightly. Now I've just taken it apart again and I've installed the gasket. You can see the gasket there. There it is. And it turns, no play, so it's perfect. Okay, so that's that. So I've just got some bricks there just to keep it up off the ground and to make it a bit more stable. It's not 100%, but it's better. It's better than it was. No, that's it. Right, I must take off the casings now again and I must check. I think it's called the intermediate wheel. The play on that. Right, so I'm installing this. There's a washer already on it, which was on it when I took it off. So I'm just going to put it in there and line it up with that. And the two of them are lining up perfect. So that's that. Now I've got to get my finger in, and I think I have to turn it around the other way. I can't really get at it from this side. So I've turned it upside down there now and I've screwed in the screw again. And as you can see, there's ever so slightly a small bit of play in it. So I need to put a washer of some description in there to stop it from moving like that. So they're sitting even here, as you can see. So I need to put the spacer in there, not a spacer, a small washer. Now I'm after putting in that extra little washer in there, and I'm just checking there's no movement on the pedal shaft, and it's just turning nicely with by hand. Now I'm putting in bearings on the other casing here, the same as the first one. This is a 6202 ZC3. So I have to heat it up first, and then this is I think it's a 6203. C3, yeah, 6203 C3. So I must heat it up now and put them in. Now that's the 6203 and the 6202 ZC3 in place. Right, I'm installing the circlip there now. To hold it in place. That's that done. Now I've put 3 of these in here to try and get them sitting correctly, so I've had to change the bigger washer up here and a lighter washer down there so that these will sit pretty much together, and when this is pulled up here it has to line up reasonably well with the top of that, which it does. So, and when I put the casing on, there's no movement. Now I must check this gear to see that there's no play when I put on the other casing. With this one you have to be careful because this section goes in to this groove here. So I've sat it down there on the other casing and I need to check if there's play in it. Now I've put on 2 screws to hold the 2 casings together, and you can see there is some play in it, so I'm going to have to put in, I know I have to put in these 2 washers because I've already checked it. So I'm putting on 2 more washers. And I know that will sort it, so I must put it back on now again, screw the 2 screws in and check it again. So I've put the 2 screws back on there to hold the 2 casings in place, and I put on the 2 washers, and now there's no play, so all is good. So these are the gear parts here now, and I'm going to put them on there just to see that they're sitting level with the top of this here. There are ball bearings that go in here when it's being installed, but this is just a dry fit. So this piece here has grooves on it here which attach on here, so that one is going on first. Now that's that one sitting down there, so you need to put in a spacer in between them just to keep them separate. So that's the spacer going on there. Now I must put this one on next. And on the back of it here you'll see there's an arrow on it, and that shows the direction of rotation. So that means that if I put it on that way, it would be the wrong way around because it's going anti-clockwise. It must be going clockwise. So I'm putting that on there now, and down it goes. I must put another spacer here, and then there's a spacer at the top. So that's that one on there. Next is another washer, and then the spacer at the top. That's the washer on there now. So next I must put on the spacer. Now this is the spacer going down, and looking at it I can see that it sits exactly right with the top of it. So that's perfect. If it wasn't sitting correct with the lip there, you would have to, in other words, if the lip was up, you would have to put in another spacer in between the gears. Right, I've taken off the casing there now, and this is the makeup of the thing. So 41.5. So now I have to check the crankshaft. So now I must measure the crankshaft. And it's 38.5. So I had 41.5, so I must put 1.5 millimeters at each side. Now I think these are 1 millimeter and these are probably 0.5 millimeter. I've just put in the washers there at each side. and it works out at 41.5, so that's correct. Now I'm putting in, I think it's the gear change mechanism, and there's a special, it's called a screen sheet on the book. Basically what it is something to stop a nut from moving. There's a little piece sticking down there, and that goes into that little slot there, like so. Where's the nut and bolt? So I must thread them together there now first. Right, I've put the nut on the end of it there, and I'm just screwing it down. It appears to be some sort of a stopper for the gears that you have to set it, and I've noticed in two of the other engines that you actually have to set it because it's fitted from this side here, which means you would have to take the engine apart. But this is a better job because you can screw it down whenever you want to do it and adjust it when you want to. See, this is the same engine now, but my engine is 1959, this one is 1960, so obviously they changed, and it's at this side, which is on the inside of the engine, which doesn't really make sense. That if you had to, there's no way of adjusting it when it's fitted like that. This is a much better job in the 1959 engine. And there's a difference in this casing here as well, in that this is the type of spring that's used on this one, that goes in there, and this goes down through that. Like so. I must put this on at the bottom. That's the type of spring on it, and on this one the spring is attached here and comes over to connect onto the back of that there, so there's a kind of a little stud in the newer models. And as I said, this is the 1959 model, so this is the spring that's in there. Right, so I must grapple with this now, and I must try and get that part of the spring up here. How I'm going to do that now, I don't know, but we'll have a cut off of it anyway. Now, this piece goes on here like so, and it goes down there. And I must now get this on to the end of this here, and I must put on this little plate and a nut to hold it in place. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to put the spring on the thing itself and then try and pull it up over the thing here, which might be an easier way to do it for me. I have a pullers there, so I might be able to pull it up. Right, I've got it onto the thing there now with the spring up here, and I'll pull this up into here, and I think that will work it. I just dropped the screw down out of my way there, so I must now put on this sheet, which must go on with this L piece down at the bottom, and then put on the nut. So I'll tighten that up there now. It's a very awkward situation. So I'll tighten that up fully there now, and then I'll try and get the spring into position. That's the nut tightened up there now, so I must get a screwdriver and bend this back to lock the nut in place. So I've just bent it back there now to keep the nut from opening. So I've now got to pull that spring up into that hole there. Right, I managed to get the spring up, and as you can see, there's good tension in it. So this here is obviously a stop of some description for changing gears, and as I say, it's handy that it's here because you can take off this casing, I think. Even though there's going to be a gasket on that, it's easier than taking the engine apart to get at it. So I'll turn that up a bit further there now because I think it has to be up. I think it has to be up further from the other engine that I had. It's up quite high. So I'll turn it up anyway. Right, I screwed it up a good bit there, and I'll have to see when I'm trying to adjust the gears if I have to readjust it. I'm not sure. As I say at the outset of this video, I'm not a mechanic. I'm just an enthusiast who has restored a Zundapp Combinette 428, which this is the 265 engine off of it, so I'm doing it myself. Now the next thing to do is to install this clutch cup, which, if you remember, I broke when I was taking the engine apart, and subsequently I bought two engines for spare parts, and this is the one I'm putting in, 265 05.134.23. So this is going in there. So I have to push it down gently, and it won't go, so I'll have to fiddle around with it and see what's happening. I managed to get it down in place. I had to use a small bit of force, gentle persuasion, and to hold that now in place I have to put a circlip in here at the back. I must find it now in all the boxes of parts that I have from 3 engines. Anyway, I'll find it. Right, that's the circlip now in place down there. The next piece to go in now is the crankshaft. I have all the washers in there on it, and this is the way it's going in that way. This is the rotor side, which goes into the other casing over there. Now that's the crankshaft in on that side. Now I'm going to put on the piston now as well, as I have the crankshaft in on that side. I'm just putting in the roller bearing, and this is the pin. So I have to put the, I remember from taking it off that the arrow faces forward, so I'm going to put on one circlip at one side first and then put the pin in. These are the circlips that came off. One is probably usable, the other one I'll have to replace it. Now that's the piston in with the 2 circlips included. I think it was easier to do it now rather than later when the other casing was together. I find it difficult to put it on when these bolts are in the way. Now I'm going to put all the 8 ball bearings into these holes here and put the gears together. So to keep them in place, I'm going to put a small little bit of oil or grease in there just to hold them in place. Now I have the first 3 ball bearings on there, and this gear goes on first. Washer. So that's that gear on there with the washer, and the next thing to do is to put this one on, and the direction of rotation is clockwise, so it has to go down that way. And washer and the spacer on top. The next gear to put in now is this one here. It goes down there. And the next one is the one I just finished. The next gears now to put down are the main gears, which I just finished there a minute ago. Keep them together so that the ball bearings don't come out. One to install now is the pedal shaft. And then this one here. Okay. Next thing to do is to, with some brake fluid, clean the area where the gasket is going. Now I'm going to use a gasket, and I'm also going to use the a slight bit of this, just to make sure that it hopefully doesn't leak. Silicone gasket on there now, the red colour. Right, that's the silicone on the other side of the casing, the other casing. So I put the two casings together now. What I forgot to say was, when you're putting those two casings together before you put on the clutch, when this is in and when you're putting this case onto the other one, you have to make sure that that sits in there when you're putting the two of them together, not out here, like so. That goes down in there, like that. Now that's it put together there now. As far as there, I must take out that little strip out of there from the gasket. Now I just put a wrench on the gear thing there just to see if everything is working. So everything seems to be working away. Now I'm at to putting on the gasket there on the top of that, and I'm just hoping that this will go down. I think it should. I think that's the way it goes. Yeah. Like so. So I have to put a gasket on probably this here as well. Here. Now that's the head down, the bottom head. I must now put on the gasket and the top head. That's there. Now this is it's a kind of a light metal gasket that's going on here. Yeah. I'm not going to put any mastic sealant on that now, and see how it goes. If it needs it after, it can be done. So now I'm going to put the top head on there, like so, and tighten that down. I think it's 15 Newton meters. Yeah, 15 Newton meters. I think is the tightness on the nuts. Right, that's the head put on there now at 15 NMs. Let's get a plug now and put it on it. Now the next thing to put on is this wheel here. I've already installed the 2 ball bearings there, and you must sit it down over. There's grooves there for the ball bearings, so you have to get it right. Which isn't easy. So I just keep turning it until it goes down over it. And the ball bearings haven't fallen out. So that's that. And there's a nut that goes on here. If anyone is sharp enough to see there now, I actually changed the crankshaft to a different crankshaft because for some reason it wouldn't go out through the bearing and the seal. So I've changed it to this one, and this one requires a nut. The other one would have required a circlip. So I must get a nut for that now. It came off one of the other engines that I have, but for some reason I can't seem to find a nut that will actually fit it. But I'll find one somehow. Just looking at the book there, I have 2 books, and one book is the older type, the 1959, which would have just a circlip here, but because this is a 1960 crankshaft, I have to put in, I found a nut, and there's a special washer with a lip on it, and the lip sits into that hole there that's on the side of the gear, and then put on this. It doesn't say anything about, well, you don't need it, but you don't need a spring washer when you have this special lock washer. Right, so I must just tighten up that there and bend up the sides of the washer so that it doesn't move. You don't want that thing coming out. So if I had put in the 1959 crankshaft, you can see that there's no nut or special washer required. All there was a circlip and probably a spacer washer, 3840. Yeah, spacers, variable spacers, but that's not what I'm working on. Okay, so I must tighten that up now. So now you can see I've turned over the washer there. The old part that had already been built previously broke off, so I bent over a new piece there, so that should hold it in place. The next thing to do now is to fit all the clutch plates, etc. here. Right, I'm putting that on there now first, so it should sit down on those 2 screws. I'm not sure if it goes down far enough. It probably does to actually hold this as well. I just need to get it down a little bit further. The first thing to do to get that on there, sit this down over it. Now that's caught on that. Hole is over here. Here's a better one. Okay. Another gas clutch plate. Another one of these. Okay, another clutch plate. Okay. The next thing to put on is these 2 washers. They're half washers. and they go in there like that. I've just dropped one. Right, I need to get a needle nose pliers to put it on. Okay, that's them, and they actually sit into that groove there. Like so. Now I think that's right, but I must just double check it. Right, and this top piece goes down there like so. And then I must tighten it with this nut. Okay. Right. I started tightening up the nut there. It seems to be a 26 or a 27. I used a 27mm socket anyway to tighten it up. Okay, the next thing that goes on is this piece. Oh, sorry, no, it doesn't. So the next thing to do now is to put in 10 of these little cups. Right, and into them go 10 springs. Right, I must check those springs now because they're actually all different sizes, and I would imagine they should be the same size. As I say, I have 3 engines, so I'm after mixing them all up. I just double. Right, I've got 10 of them the same length there now. One set of them was actually shorter, so the next thing to do now is to put on this. And to get that on, you have to compress it down with something, and I'm just going to use timber clamps that I use when I'm clamping wood, but they're not the greatest for doing what I need to do, so we'll have a go off it anyway. So that's how to press it down there. That's one way of doing it. There's other ways of doing it. I did it a different way myself, but I'm not going to show how I did it because it wasn't the best thing to do. So anyway, that's it. I have it tied off there now, and the next thing to do is to put in this pressure pin that goes there. Now the next piece I'm putting in there is this spacer. It goes in there like that, and what it does is it goes against this here, and I don't really know if there's any purpose to it, but it's gone in anyway. Right, the next thing I must do is, now I actually didn't take out this clutch lever when I was cleaning it up, and I left it all in there as it is. Basically there's a screw that goes through, and there's a nut for tightening it, and that pushes on this plate here then. So when you pull the lever here, it pushes the pin on the clutch, which is here. Like so. Right, so I'm going to put this cover on now, and to do that I'm going to put on a gasket at that side, which is this one here, the same as I did on the other side. Now that's the gasket on. I'm actually not going to put in the Durco gasket maker for the moment, just in case that I have to take it off to adjust the gear change here. So I'm just going to fit this on as it is. Right, that's it. So I have to put all these bolts in from the other side. Right, I've just installed that one bolt there now, and that's holding it in place, so I'm going to put in the rest of the bolts on it. That one doesn't go there. It doesn't go there. It goes there. That one goes there. Long one there. A long one there, probably there, and there. So I can tighten all those up now. Actually, I don't need to tighten this one because there's a little brackety light metal bracket piece to go on there like so, and it gets screwed in there as well, and that holds it in place down there. Okay, so that's the other bolt that goes there. Okay, I've got to put in what is it, 16 22-3 oil seal there, and 16 24-7 in there. So I'll actually put them in first now, will I? I will. Okay, I'll put in the 16 24-7 first, and then I'll put in the 16 22-3. Right, this is the 16 24-7 seal. And get it reasonably straight first before we start bashing it in. Okay, I need to get something to put it in there. Right, as you can see, I'm actually just using a 17mm long extension socket to put it on there, and I'm tapping it in with the hammer. In this case, I'm just using a long, it's a kind of a long socket thing, and it's the right size to fit it, so I'm going to tap it in there a bit further now. Right, that's it in place there now, and I'm just going to screw in all these 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 screws. I think there's about 9 of them. So I'll screw all those in there now. So there's another oil seal to go in there, and it's a 15 24-7. This is it. So I'm just going to put that in there now again with the same method I used previously. Now that's that 15 24-7 oil seal in place there. These are the two little screws to hold that in place there. Right. I had that there. Okay. So this section here now is first of all the spring goes in. I've already put in the seal there, the oil seal spring. And then this unit here goes down like that, and then I have to put in the 2 ball bearings, so I need to push that down then and put in the ball bearings. Right, I got the 2 ball bearings in there. I had 3 of these yokes off the 3 engines, and this is the only one that would actually fit down on this shaft here, so obviously there's very slight differences in them. I couldn't get the ball bearings in on any of them, but I got it in on that one. And then this goes down over the 2 ball bearings. I'll have to tap it down with 2 hands. I've just tapped down this piece here now over the ball bearings, and I've installed the circlip. This is the circlip that goes in there. So that's working in place there now. Right, the next thing to know now is to put on this side cover here. This is the dipstick for this model. I just need to get a fibre washer there now and put it in there. I've put in the fibre washer there, and I'm tightening up the oil dipstick. I had a 10mm spanner a while ago. What I've done with it, I don't know. Oh, put it back up here. Right, that's that. To cover it the other side now, I think is all that's left. Oh, I must put on the electrical unit. Now I'm putting on the front sprocket, and it appears that there are 2 kind of half washers that go into a slot there. I put some grease on it there to hold them in place. That goes in there. And the sprocket is turned in that way, and there's a slight lip on it there that sits over those 2 half washers. There's a kind of a lock washer that goes on there like that, and then a nut. So I must just find a nut for it, because it's a long time ago since I took it off. Now that's the sprocket in place with the kind of a lock washer that goes on underneath it. I'm installing the electrical unit and tightening up these bolts here. That's the wire protector there in place. And I'm just tightening up these. I will have to set the timing on it, so I'll probably be loosening these again. Okay, that's that. Connected onto the plug. I must put in the little Woodruff key, which goes in that little slot there. It's a tiny little thing, and that holds the rotor there. There's a little slot on the rotor there that goes over it, and that makes the whole thing spin. So I'm going to put the little Woodruff key in there now first, which is a difficult thing to do, and I need both hands to do it. Right, that's the little Woodruff key there now in the slot. I must just straighten it a little bit, because otherwise it'll get caught on the slot on the rotor going in. Now that's the rotor in place. There's good compression. Right, the side cover. I just need 2 bolts for that there now. So now that's the 265 engine for the Zundapp 428, a Zundapp Combinette 428 finished. That's it. So now I can put it back on the bike and put some oil in it. Put it back on the bike and see how it's going.